Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Driveway Engineer. I'm JR. Merry Christmas. It's Christmas Eve as I'm filming this. My table is draining in the background, so it sounds like somebody's taking a leak, which is fun. But to get to the point of this video, you know, with COVID, with trying to get the shop open and everything, I've been off of my normal game of posting videos. But I wanted to talk to you guys today about Gen 3 engines versus Gen 4 engines and why I will never ever, most likely ever, buy a Gen 4 engine, why I just don't care. To start with, there's a lot of confusion out there, and there are a lot of opinions, and there are, you know, some misinformation, some things just a matter of opinion. But to me, a Gen 3 engine, we're talking about truck engines here now. I'm not talking about a GTO or a C5 or you know, an F-body or anything else. I'm talking about the engines that we can go to the junkyard and pull any day. If they're from a truck that looks like this, or a truck that looks like this, they're Gen 3. Simple as that. The 99 to 07 Silverado Sierra GMT 800 chassis, every single one of those engines is Gen 3. When you get into vans and you get into Trailblazers, they're really funky. But just the normal, to keep it simple, I'm just going to go over the normal donors. You can walk into any junkyard in America and pull one of these in 5.3 or 4.8 flavor today. Those are Gen 3 engines. Now, let me grab something here real quick. In 2004-5, they started coming with beefier rods, and that'll be what people refer to on the interwebs as Gen 4 rods. They look like this, and I will insert a picture of some Gen 3 rods, but you can see, I mean, these are an H-beam. They're significantly beefy. These ones have full floating pins. Not all of them do. There's some earlier hybrid bastard ones that don't. By the way, look at that beautiful 230,000 mile bearing there that I would put right back into an engine and run. These were for the Dodge, and I've not heard from the gentleman who wanted to buy the Dodge, so that program may be back on. So, I've watched Richard Holdner make 1,500 horsepower with Gen 3 rods. I know that you guys are going to see this video. You're going to see that they're beefier starting in 05, from 05 to 07, and you're going to go scour the earth for these rods. And you don't have to do that. If we're talking driver stuff, you know, and I'm talking like a 78, 75, a GT45, a turbo someday, you know, like this, right? It's been 3 years and I'm going to put a turbo on that someday. It's actually on there right now. You'll see that video later. But yeah, I mean, your standard 300 to 700 tire, I wouldn't bother changing those rods or looking for an 05 and up engine. I wouldn't do it. However, all Gen 4 engines have those rods and full floating pins. So that's one difference. Another difference is the intake. All Gen 4 engines, except for Trailblazer SS's, or Gen 3 engines, except for Trailblazer SS's, have the truck style intake. All the Gen 4 engines have a Trailblazer SS or new body style, which is a stupid bit of nomenclature, but I'm not going to go into that. So that's another thing. You can easily tell by the intake. If it has a bread box, Trailblazer SS, whatever you want to call it, the newer style intake, is a Gen 4 engine for sure. Another way is through the PCM. If it looks like this one's from a mud pile and it'll work fine. But you guys are trying to hide them under your cab and under your seat and whatever, but this one works fine. This one happens to be a 411, which is also known as a P01, or a P59. They look identical. And those are Gen 3 PCMs. which means that PCM hammer works on them, which means that they're easy to tune with HP tuners, which means that you can easily do some of the piggyback stuff that Matt Happel and some of the other people on Sloppy Mechanics have been getting into. It's really interesting lately. I've even seen a board replacement where they treat this like a daughter board, like Honda, but I'm getting off track. So those are Gen 3 PCMs, and they're easy to tune with PCM hammer and a $50 dongle. Gen 4 PCMs look like this. They're gonna be E38s or E40s or E42s. They also have a discrete TCM. So there's an engine control module and there's a transmission control module, and those two have to mesh, which brings me to the first point of why I don't like Gen 4 engines. Well, the first point of why I don't like Gen 4 engines is they're a lot more money. You're not gonna find them in the self-serve yards. They pop up very, very rarely around me. I mean, probably on the order of 6 a year or so in any given yard. They're just not common yet. So there's that, right? You're gonna pay full pull-out price for them. You're gonna pay $800-900 for a 5.3. You're gonna pay $1,800-1,900 for a Gen 4 6-liter, like an LY6. It's not worth it to me. And number two, back to what I was talking about, is they use, so in here, in the Gen 3, this will control any Gen 3 transmission. It'll run a 4L60, it'll run a 4L65, if you just gotta have the 5 more E's. It'll run a 4L70, it'll run a 4L80. It doesn't care. You can segment swap your way to success with that. If this isn't what you want, you can make it what you want by watching the videos in my tuning playlist or, you know, elsewhere on YouTube. Gen 4 PCMs are not tolerant of that shit, okay? If that was a 5.3 6L80 PCM TCM, that's pretty much the way it's gonna stay. You got to get into rewiring, you got to get into jumper harnesses, you have to go find the right TCM. And what I hear when I don't know what you hear when I say that, you might be, well, that doesn't sound so hard. What I hear when I say all those things is $, $, right? It's just added cost. And as long as you're aware of that going in, it's not a big deal. If I came across like a LY6, 6L90, 2-wheel drive, and you know, I could get the whole thing for like $1,000 and I had the harness and everything, I'd throw it in Daryl because Daryl's a cruiser. And it would make more power than what it makes now, even with the cam. And it would drive better with a 6-speed and that would be fine. But the problem is cost, right? Like I have a $150 transmission in here. I have a $220 engine in here with like a, you know, $600 in cam and springs and stuff like that. And it's a great running truck, so you know it's kind of hard to sway me to want to go to a higher engine. So what you need to know is if you get a Gen 4 5.3 and you decide you have to have a 4L80 with it because that's what the internet says, you have to go find a very specific TCM, which only comes in a couple vans for a couple years. So you're going to pay for that. It's just a bunch of cost, and there's not a lot of gain if we're talking about 4.8s and 5.3s. If we're talking about a 6-liter, an LY6 makes a lot more power than this. But like an NBS or whatever, a Gen 4 5.3 does not make a lot more power than a Gen 3 5.3. Like I get that they have 243 heads, they're not that much better than the 862 heads. With a cam and some tuning and you know, and you're just not going to notice the difference. Rectangle port heads are a game changer for sure though. But again, it's a lot. I would probably pick up another 125 to the tire with some rectangle port heads on this. It would be almost as good as putting a turbo on it. But the cost isn't there yet. So we talked about the rods are heavier duty in a Gen 4 and some Gen 3s. The intakes are better on the Gen 4, but it's not really significant in my opinion. The years again are Gen 3 99 to 07, Gen 4 07 to 14. After 14 or in 14 they go direct injected and none of that stuff exchanges. And if, in my opinion, I would completely skip Gen 4. If the next engine that goes into this will probably be a Gen 5 because they've come down in cost so much. And they make a lot more power and they drive better and they have 6-speed transmissions too. What else do I want to talk about? Cruise control. to my knowledge, at this time, it's Christmas Eve 2021, there is no way to do cruise control in a Gen 4 engine, period. Gen 3, you can do an external module. If you have drive-by-wire, you can do it right in the TAC module. It doesn't matter. There's a bunch of ways to do it. It's pretty easy. Cruise isn't a big deal to everybody, but maybe it is to you. If you want to do aftermarket manuals or like an old 4-speed or something like that, with a Gen 4, you're almost certainly condemning yourself to going with a Holley or an aftermarket solution. Or if you want to do a 4L80. And that's part of it. This is what kind of made me make this video, is I realized where some of these people are getting the justification that it's easier and cheaper and they would be money ahead to go with a Holley. If you start with a Gen 4 engine, you probably are. You're probably better because it's hard to rework the harness. You can't just twist 4 wires together and make it work like you can in Gen 3. And then it doesn't work with certain transmissions. But then the Holley will only work with 4 speeds. So you need to know that going in. If you want a 6-speed transmission, the Holley can't control it. What else do we got? I think that's about it for the differences. For the power that you gain, I mean, I would say that a 5.3, a Gen 4 5.3, you know, cam tune, everything else is probably another 15-20 horsepower to the tires over like an LM7. You know, if we're talking about a normal swap, and that's just not, it doesn't make sense to me to do that. Not with all the other aggravation and headache. The only way, in my opinion, to use a Gen 4 engine is as a complete functioning unit, like stock. This engine came with this transmission, and it came with this TCM, and it came with this PCM, and it came with this harness, and it's all together, and I'm going to put all that in with a cam, the way it is. Oh, also, all the Gen 4 engines in half tons, so all your 4.8s, all your 5.3s, they all came with AFM, they all came with displacement on demand, they all came with active fuel management, they all have bad lifters. Those are all the problems that you want to hear. Gen 3 engines don't have any of that. They have a cam, they have lifters, they work fine. So I think that that's where part of the disconnect comes from when I tell people just like use all your stock shit and throw it in. And then I find out that they went and paid a bunch of extra money for like some 09 takeout. And cheap hot rodding is just not the way to go, in my opinion. So, that's it for Gen 3 versus Gen 4. Hopefully that shows you guys the difference. I'll insert the pictures, like I said. I'll show you guys around the shop here real quick. I've been up here working. I've been working on this rocket stove design. I have a bunch of your orders drowned and ready to go on Monday. Yeah, I've been up here. I don't know what this is. My wife got this and then just like left it all right here. That's what she does. But yeah, we're up here working hard every day. So I appreciate you guys watching. I hope the video helps. Let me know down below what you think. What is your opinion on the Gen 3 versus Gen 4? And we'll see you next time on The Driveway Engineer. Merry Christmas, everybody. Enjoy your holiday. Be safe.